All right, I'd like to welcome you to this edition of In the Conference Room with Mark S. Lee. And I hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. I know I did. And as we continue to celebrate summer, and I love these long, warm, hazy days of summer. Now, look, let me just say something before I get started. I heard some people complaining over the last few days that it was too hot. Whoa, I don't ever want to hear this. Bring it. But I tell you who's hot. How about those Detroit Tigers? That's right. We're happy about those Tigers. Hopefully, they can keep the momentum going. Hey, Tigers, all Tiger fans out there, enjoy this ride. I'm enjoying it, and hopefully, they can take us for a nice long ride going into the fall. All right, as you know, I want you to sit back and relax, enjoy the conversation as we do each and every single week. We have business leaders from across the great city of Detroit, the state of Michigan, and across the country and beyond. We bring you the latest business news happening across the Motor City. My name is Mark S. Lee, and I'm your host. And this week is no exception. I'm so pleased to be joined in the conference room by Mr. Matt Elliott. He's the CEO and founder of Blue Lake Ideas, and also Mr. Jose Flores, and he is the Chief Executive Officer of Encore. Matt and Jose, thanks for joining me in the conference room. How are you?
Great to be here.
Great.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Great to be here.
Absolutely. And Jose, I love your background. You got the Isaiah Thomas back there, and must be a big Pistons fan, huh?
Yeah, Bad Boys, huge fan. I have a signed basketball when they won the championship by all of them also. So
Well, above my head, nobody knows there's a basketball above my head. That's a Pistons basketball that was actually signed by Chauncey Billups right after they won their last championship. So I keep it right over there. So, hey, Detroit's in a row right now when it comes to our sports teams. All right, let's jump right into the conversation. We're going to talk about the Green and White Council, And Matt, I want to come over to you and tell us about the Green and White Council. Exactly what is it, and how long has it been around?
Sure. Thank you, Mark. The Green and White Council is one of President Kevin Guskiwitz's signature initiatives at Michigan State. And one of what our goal is to better connect the business community with the university, with the idea that we want to drive better outcomes for both students and the state. So we have two basically large goals in mind. One is around workforce development. The other is economic development. So under the heading of workforce development, we want to connect, we want to prepare students for the jobs of the future. Number two, we want to connect both employers and students with work opportunities here in the state of Michigan, with the idea of retaining even more of our talented grads. And then the last thing is around economic development, which is how do we catalyze growth in the state of Michigan? How do we bring MSU's unique strengths to the table to address our biggest challenges and capitalize on our biggest opportunities? And I'm grateful to be Go ahead.
Go ahead. Now, I was going to say,
I'm grateful to be.
I was going to say, those are all great challenges. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I'm one of two co-chairs of the council. It's myself and Sanjay Gupta, who's the former dean of the Broad College of Business. And we're grateful to have an amazing group of leaders on our council. And Jose Flores is one of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, those are all great challenges. We're going to unpack a little bit later as part of this conversation. Obviously, we know what the challenges are in the state of Michigan, and I have an interest in this conversation for sure. And Jose, you're one of the leaders. Let's talk about your role and your vision for the Green and White Council as well.
Yeah, great question. I think for me, the vision is I live this every day. I build teams, I watch people grow, I watch some people leave. My whole background is about connecting people to opportunities and pushing for innovation and actually drive jobs. So the vision for me and my whole purpose for the Green and White Council is how can I provide input as a business person of like what are the needs that we're requiring nowadays in the industries in this high-paced evolving AI industry? What are the skills that we need? What are the soft skills that we need? And how can we align with Michigan State University to prepare those students for the workforce needs?
And talk to us briefly about your background, Encore. What type of business is that? So, are you an entrepreneur? Are you a business owner? Kind of talk to us briefly about your background.
Yeah, so Anchor has been around for more than nearly 50 years now. We started as a tier one supplier in automotive, doing data management and labels for all the OEMs. And recently, we just expanded and opened divisions, Innovation Solution Projects Division, and
Mhm.
the Regulated Industry Division, because now we're not just about data management. We're about how do we implement innovation solutions like AI, blockchain technology, and how do we help businesses go through this digital transformation journey to keep them and provide them an edge? How do we migrate legacy systems to the latest and greatest? So now we're a group that we tackle several industries, and we help them with innovation projects. And I have always been an entrepreneur myself, so I took this company and grew it from automotive and used the foundation and reputation that we had to go to other industries.
And before I come back over to Matt, I want to ask you, based on that background, that's a very impressive background. How do you view that helping the Green and White Council as well? What are some of the attributes and skills that you're bringing to the council based on your background? Jose.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said Matt. So the skills that I bring, also my background is I did a lot of consulting all over the world. So I live in more than 6 different countries, assessing different types of industries, working with different cultures. So my background is very wide, is and it's how do we take the opportunity and harvest the opportunity, because the way I see it, and that's why I didn't even hesitate when Matt and Sanjay reached out to me to join this council, is we don't want the Green and White Council to be a think tank. We're a do tank. Like, we do it. We just don't brainstorm. We actually have actionable items that we're going to make sure in phases that we deploy to build that ecosystem that Michigan needs.
And Matt, I want to come over to you. Now I'm going to unpack some of these meaty topics that the council is attacking. We certainly know that workforce development is a challenge in Michigan. Let's just be honest about it. And we've been very certainly manufacturing driven over the last 100 years. Obviously, the automotive industry. We know that the state is diversified. Talk about, from your perspective, the role of the council in helping our overall workforce. What are you looking at doing, and what types of industries are you looking to attract and help develop here in Michigan?
Mark, what we're doing is not necessarily attracting new industries, but we want to bring MSU's thought leadership to the opportunities and the challenges that we have. So think about, for example, onshoring. That's a tremendous opportunity that's available to the United States, but Michigan in particular. MSU has this worldwide leadership position in supply chain management, for example. And if you think about the reordering of the supply chains that are occurring with all the onshoring that's going on, MSU is a thought leader in that. We're training the supply chain professionals of the future, for example, and we already have this incredible installed base of alumni who want to help the university, and they also want to help the firms they work for. So that's the kind of thing that we're focused on in terms of innovation. We're also really focused on trying to make sure that the graduates that MSU produces are ready, not just to be ready for their first job, but for lifelong learning. The thought experiment that Kevin has done with us, the President Guskowitz, is, listen, the graduates that just graduated this past May will retire sometime in the 2070 timeframe. Like, let that sink in for a little bit, and then think about how many times these students are going to have to reinvent themselves in an AI quantum computer powered world, right? And what we want to do is make sure that we're preparing MSU students to be able to do that. And it requires, not just a really great classroom experience, but also a work-based learning experience so that they can acquire the soft skills and build the networks that they need to be successful over the long term.
That's interesting because as you're talking and reflecting on my own career, I worked in corporate for a long time, and I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, as you know. And I have to reimagine myself in terms of my career. So you think about 2070, here we are in 2025. I don't want to think that far ahead, but that is a novel idea. That's a challenging idea that the young people need to understand, that you're going to be going through a process of constantly reinventing yourself. And that leads me to my next question. As we talk about workforce development, helping the workforce through Michigan State, through MSU, an article in the paper yesterday, and they interviewed 4 students. The Detroit Free Press interviewed 4 students, and it talked about what these students' plans are. And by the way, it was in conjunction with MSU. And they talked about what these students' plans are after they graduate from Michigan State, I believe Central Michigan, Western Michigan, and then the University of Michigan, University of Detroit Mercy. And of those, so 2 of those said they were leaving the state. They were going to go elsewhere. So obviously, we're going to get into this whole conversation about keeping talent in Michigan. Talk about the role of the council in terms of keeping people here, the challenges? What are you going to be focused on to making it happen?
Well, the number one thing that we need to focus to start with actually is that 2/3 of MSU's graduates do stay in the state. So we're starting from a position of strength. That
Okay.
said, we all know that the state of Michigan's population is sort of flat and not growing very quickly. And what we want to do is retain as many of our great students as we possibly can. And so we're working with employers like Jose's company to, number one, understand what employers need. Number two, how do we make it as easy as possible for employers to connect in with the great students that MSU has? And then thirdly, how do we make it easy for also the students to get in contact with companies like Jose's? So a lot of it is about simplification. It turns out that every college at MSU approaches placement of graduates a little bit different, and we're trying to standardize some of that and learn from the various colleges and take the best practices and standardize those. We've also found out that, for example, about half of MSU students already have a work-based learning experience, like an internship. And what the thought experiment we're asking ourselves is, all right, how do we make that available to all 40,000 undergrads? And what would that look like? And how do we make sure that we have equitable access? Everybody gets a chance to have an experience like that. So these are some of the very bold ideas that President Guskowitz has tasked us with. And to Jose's point, this is a doing council, not a think tank council. And so what we're trying to do is boil that down to a few actionable items that will have a lot of impact, but will also be executable in the next, call it 12 months.
And Jose, from your perspective, how are you as an industry expert, if you will, using your organization, your skill set to connect with these students at MSU, and certainly with the objective of keep them here in the state of Michigan, not just the Metro Detroit, but the entire state of Michigan. Talk about it from your perspective as an industry leader.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think talent always follows where there's growth, community, and purpose. So we in Michigan need those 3 points. If we don't build upon those 3 points, we're going to lose the battle. So something that I've been working on the past couple of years is how do we motivate that younger talent pipeline, since not even in college. I do it even before. I do it in high school. I serve on the Detroit Cristo Rey Board of Trustees as well, and I connect with students and bring them in for them to have the real field world life experience. And that also helps the student because maybe the student thinks that he wants to be a developer, and this is a real case. He wanted to be a developer. I threw him to the developers, and he's like, "Hey, you know what, Jose? This is not for me." He went to marketing, and he loved marketing. So I saved that student time, effort, and everything because he was going to probably pursue software developer, his real passion was marketing. But something that I think that makes us stand out on the Green and White Council is that we just don't stop at the hiring door. I think most of the businesses stop at the hiring door. At the Green and White Council, we're building the ladder. We're not just like putting these students in the workforce. We're building a ladder for them to keep climbing up, because as you were reflecting on your personal career, you're always asking yourself, like, what's next for me? And you don't know what's next for you. And at the Green and White Council, we're placing students, but we're also building the ladder for them to keep growing and going on.
How do you connect with those students? How do you identify and connect? What is MSU doing to? I'm also an adjunct professor at 3 different universities as well. And it's the ongoing question for a lot of universities, certainly when it comes to talent, retaining our talent here in Michigan. How do you, this question is for both of you, how do you connect and really build that relationship with the students? What exactly are they looking for, and what can the council deliver to really build on that ladder that you're talking about, Jose? But again, that question for both of you.
I
Jose, why
think
don't you go ahead and start?
Yeah, sure. So I think the way you do that is students and younger generations have like studies have showed that they're looking not only for a job, they're looking for a sense of belonging and purpose.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They want to belong. They want to make sure that the business shares the same values, the same mission. They care about the planet. And the way you connect is it's very fast-paced, evolve. Now you don't wait for them to knock at your door. You need to show up. You need to be at the events with the university. You need to be at the recruiting fairs. and you need to get creative. You need to stand out as a business. I think most of the businesses just sit back and stay and wait for them to knock on the door. But the ones that we actually show up and do things differently and get creative are the ones that are we're getting the talent engine, right?
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Matt.
Mark. Yeah, for sure. What we have seen is that the very best firms and also the colleges within Michigan State, and I think this would be true at any other university, are the ones where this idea of employment starts like the day the freshman shows up on campus. The very first day, they immediately start engaging and being ready to work. They immediately start engaging with companies because the companies are showing up very early. And what this all comes down to, Mark, and we all know this as business people, we all do business with folks that we know, like, and trust. And so consequently, what we see is that the very best firms and also the most effective colleges at MSU are the ones that help build those relationships early. And so companies and also students can take each other for a test drive, if you will. And so, when by the time the student graduates, it's not their first work experience. And so our goal now is to try to embed that work-based learning opportunity as early into the educational career as possible, because then we know that the student will be better prepared to work. So the employer will have somebody who's sort of work ready day one. And also the student knows what he or she is getting into, and the student is starting off in a place where they really want to be, where they really feel that belonging that Jose just alluded to.
And again, just refresh my memory, the council was established when, Matt?
We established it earlier this year. We announced it back in the fall, and we really established it in February. And so we started meeting in April, and we just had our second meeting a few weeks ago. We are constantly in constant communication with each other, but we meet physically for half a day several times a year. And by the time we get to the end of the year, that's when we expect to have 2 or 3 signature initiatives that we'll be ready to announce, but more importantly, execute on.
And that was going to be my question. So that you've been basically established since the beginning of this year, earlier this year. Excuse me. So the top 2 or 3 priorities, without divulging things that certainly the confidential things that you're working on. But what are the top 2 or 3 priorities for the council right now?
Well, let's go through the 3 pillars again, just to remind everybody, right? So the first pillar is prepare, the second one is connect, and the third is catalyze. And so we've been spending a lot of time on the middle pillar, which is connect. How do we connect students and employers together with the idea of providing an excellent work-based learning experience as part of the college career of a student, but then also help companies deal with the number one issue that all companies have, which is attracting and retaining the best people. Right. And so the thing that we're doing there is we're trying to simplify the process of getting to know each other. We're trying to expand access to work-based learning. And we're also trying to make it easy for employers to get access to great talent. So think of a simplification and a standardization process that we're going to work on there. And then we're also starting to spend more time on catalyze. How do we bring MSU's unique skills and talents to address the state of Michigan's biggest opportunities and challenges? That's one where we're definitely thinking about how do we find and how do we bring 2 or 3 of MSU's unique strengths to the table in a very unique way. So there's more to come there. But we've got a lot. Luckily, we have a lot of things to choose from. We have the great supply chain school, as I mentioned, great packaging school, an unbelievable medical health team. MSU graduates more doctors, for example, than any other school in the Big Ten, and it's not even close.
I know that. And you know that. Did not know that. Jose, what does success look like, Jose?
I think success looks like, if you call me in 2 years, for me, success looks like businesses saying we have the talent that we need. Mm-hmm. I connecting people, helping students build the ecosystem and mentoring them, and MSU saying we're providing top tier students, satisfying the needs and skills that businesses need.
Matt, as we begin to wrap up, I want to focus on a leadership spotlight in this case. Jose, from your perspective, talk about his unique skill set, his leadership ability, and what he's bringing to the council based on his experience. I mean, what really attracted you to Jose and things of that sort as we wrap up?
Well, Mark, I've had the pleasure of knowing Jose for many years. We didn't talk about it, but I stepped out of a 35-year banking career back in the fall. And at the end of my career, had the privilege of being the president of Bank of America, Michigan, and also running the business bank around the Midwest and global commercial bank in Michigan for a long time. In that sense, I got a chance to see Jose up close and personal in his activity. And so as I pivoted into this Green and White Council role, we wanted Jose to be a part of the council, both Sanjay and I know Jose, because number one, he's really innovative. I mean, the pivot that he and Anchor are making is really unique. Number two, Jose brings, as he mentioned, a really global perspective. I mean, Jose raised his hand to move here from Mexico, so he's got that experience. Jose is also a Spartan, so he loves MSU, as do I. And so we had all those things that we wanted to bring to Jose to bring his talents to, and he's done exactly that. You know, when we've had these conversations around how do we deal with the AI challenge? How do we make sure that students are getting the best opportunities? What does winning look like at the firm level, even for a company that's not, say, Ford? Jose brings all of that experience to the table, and we're really grateful for his insight.
Okay. Is there a website or people can go to track the progress? How, I guess the question becomes, how can people really track the progress in terms of seeing how the council is doing moving forward?
Easiest way to do it, Mark, is to subscribe to MSU Today, and we're going to post periodic updates. It's also quite easy to follow Kevin Guskowitz on LinkedIn or follow myself or Jose, for example, because we constantly are posting, MSU factoids. The other thing that we're going to do, and the other thing that the council has mentioned, is that, being good, humble Midwesterners, MSU doesn't brag about itself very much. But MSU does have incredible strength that I learn about literally almost every day, something new. And so we want to do a better job of telling our own story as Spartans. And it's not just for the benefit of Spartan Nation, it's for the state. Kevin likes to say that Michigan State University is Michigan's state university. And that's one of the ambitions that Kevin has for the university. And in a lot of ways, that's what we are.
As we wrap up, I want to say congratulations. I appreciate this conversation. The state of Michigan has 15 state-supported schools. They're all great institutions. And I'm just proud to be able to have this conversation with Matt Elliott, Jose Flores. This has been awesome. I wish you much continued success in terms of the Green and White Council. And thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join me in the conference room today.
Thanks for having us. Great conversation.
Thank you, Mark.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Mark.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I want you all to go out, make it a great day, make it a great week. Hey, continue to enjoy these long, warm days of summer. I know that I am. We will check you out next time in the conference room with Mark S. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe and continue to spread the word. Well, make it a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.